Welcome back to Educator.com's English Grammar course. This lesson is about pronoun case and relative pronouns, but it's really about when to use who and when to use whom. Let's get started. Alright, I'm sure you've been in this situation before. You pick up the phone, somebody says something and you say, "Who are you calling for?" And if the person who's calling is a grammar Nazi, they go, "No, for whom are you calling?" And you get into this whole fight about do I say who or do I say whom? I have had this argument with my friends many times, and I'm going to show you how to determine which one to use. It's all about a grammatical construct called pronoun case. So we're going to go over it, and by the end of this lesson, you will know exactly which one to use. We're going to begin with looking at relative pronouns, what they are, what they do. Then we're going to look at the three cases of pronouns in English: subjective, objective, and possessive. Trust me, you use this stuff. Then we're going to look at how to use relative pronouns like who and whom. You're going to look at how to use them in comparisons, how to use them as modifiers, when to use we and when to use us, and finally, we're going to wrap it all up with who versus whom. All right, what are relative pronouns and why do they matter? Relative pronouns take the place of nouns, like all pronouns, and they introduce subordinate clauses, which you'll find in our lessons on sentence parts and patterns, and also in our lesson on conjunctions. Now, there are different relative pronouns for different purposes. You use who, whom, whose, and sometimes that to refer to people. Those are the personal relative pronouns. You use which and that to refer to animals and to things, unless the animal is especially beloved. It's your beloved cat Fluffy, in which case, go ahead and use who, and if anyone gives you trouble, just yell at them. Use which for clauses that are non-essential. So, for example, I'm going to the laundromat, which is my favorite place for people watching. Well, you don't really need this whole clause here to understand the sentence. You could just say, I'm going to the laundromat. You use that with no comma. Notice this comma right here that always precedes which. You use that with no comma for clauses that are essential to the meaning of the sentence. I'm going to the laundromat that offers free soap. This tells you which laundromat you're going to, so it's essential. All right, pronoun case. English pronouns come in three major forms, or cases. They change their shape according to what they do in the sentence. The subjective case is used when the pronoun is the subject or subject complement of its clause. Now remember, the subject complement is the thing on the other side of the equal sign when you use a linking verb. Go check the lesson about linking verbs if you're unclear on that one. Subjective case pronouns include I, you, he, she, and it, we, you plural, they, and who. Now remember, you could use these, as any of them, as the subject of the sentence. I love cats. You love cats. He, she, or it loves cats. We love cats. You guys love cats. They love cats. Who loves cats? All right. The objective case, which is our second case, is used when the pronoun is the object of a verb or a preposition, or any time the subjective and possessive cases aren't called for. It's kind of our catch-all. So that would be me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them, or whom. So if you go back to our cats example, cats love me, cats love you, cats love him, cats love her, cats love it. It, I assume, would be catnip or cat food. Cats love us, cats love you guys, cats love them. Whom do cats love? In each of these cases, all of these pronouns are the object of the verb love. You can also use it as the object of a preposition. He gave the present to me, he gave the present to her, and so on. All right, the possessive case, which we're not going to get into too much because most people basically get it, is used to indicate ownership. My and mine, your and yours, his, her, and hers, its, note, no apostrophe, very important, our and ours, your plural, yours plural, theirs, and whose. Now, you use the subjective case when the pronoun is the subject or subject complement of its clause. You use the possessive to indicate ownership. Otherwise, when in doubt, use the objective. So, I hope they don't ask me too many questions. I, of course, is the subject of the sentence. Okay? They is the subject of the clause. They don't ask me too many questions. And me is the indirect object of ask. It was I who called the police. Okay? Now you may be saying, wait a minute, it is the subject of that sentence. Ah, it is. But was is a linking verb. It's one you can replace with an equal sign. So it and I are interchangeable, so you have to use the subjective case. You can't say, it was me who called the police, because you would never say, me called the police. You sound like you were brain damaged. However, for me, the most difficult part of the day is getting out of bed. Me, in this case, is the object of the preposition for. So, me is not the subject of the sentence, it's the object of a preposition, so you use the objective case. All right, now that we've gone over all of that, test your skills. Which of these sentences is correct? You like chocolate more than me, or you like chocolate more than I? Take a good look, pause the video if you need to. Surprise! They're both right, but they mean very different things. When you're using pronouns for comparisons, the case of the pronoun can change the whole meaning of the sentence. You like chocolate more than me means you like chocolate more than you like me. Me is in the objective case, so it would have to be the object of the verb like. All right. You like chocolate more than I. Well, I is in the subjective case, so you like chocolate more than I do. There's a verb implied there. So, if you're ever in doubt about whether you like chocolate more than me or you like chocolate more than I, say the entire sentence, not just the part with the whole thing with a bit of it left out, and see which pronoun you use in the full-length sentence. All right, modifiers. When a pronoun is in a modifying phrase or clause, determine whether it is modifying a subject or an object. What does this actually mean? Though many students were involved in the fight, the principal only called 2 people to the office, Darlene and me. In this case, Darlene and me is modifying people. Well, what's the role of people in this sentence? It is the object, the direct object, of the verb called. So me has to be in the objective case because it's replacing an object. Now let's look at another way to say this sentence. Only 2 people, Darlene and I, were called to the principal's office, though many students were involved in the fight. Now what's going on? The same events are happening, but all of a sudden the pronoun case has changed. That's because people in this case is the subject of the sentence. The verb is were called. You remember up at the top, principal was the subject, so something else had to be the object. But in this case, people were called. So Darlene and I is replacing the subject people, so I has to be in the subjective case. All right, choose the correct pronoun for each of these sentences. Zach is not coming, for I or me asked him to wait until tomorrow. This present is not for you, but for I or me. Come and meet my cousin Charles, who or whom works as a clown in the circus. Take a good look, pause the video if you need to. And here we are. Zach is not coming, for I asked him to wait until tomorrow. Now, I know for can sometimes be a preposition, but in this case it is acting as a conjunction, connecting 2 independent clauses. Zach is not coming, and I asked him to wait until tomorrow. You'd never say me asked him to wait until tomorrow. Doesn't make sense, so this has to be in the subjective case. This present is not for you, but for me. Well, in this case, for is acting like a preposition, so it has to have an objective pronoun for its object, me. And come and meet my cousin Charles, who works as a clown in the circus. Well, we're looking for a subject to do the action works, so we have to use the subjective case, who. Don't worry, we'll get into this in more detail toward the end of this lesson. All right, we versus us. You would not think this is a problem, but it is. Occasionally, we put the pronouns we or us in front of nouns to emphasize our membership in a group. We students, for example. But which pronoun do we use? Is it us students or we students? Again, it depends on the antecedent. So, does Uncle Sam think we taxpayers grow money on trees? Well, is it we taxpayers or us taxpayers? In this case, we're looking for the subject of the verb grow. That's what taxpayers is, which means that we need the subjective case, we. Whereas, by contrast, Uncle Sam needs to give us taxpayers a break. All right, taxpayers in this case is the indirect object of the verb give, which means that us has to be in the objective case. Now, if you're ever confused about this one, eliminate the noun, just use the we or the us, and see which pronoun makes sense. Uncle Sam needs to give us a break. Does Uncle Sam think we grow money on trees? Both of those sentences make sense because you've got your pronoun in the right case. All right, who versus whom, which bedevils every grammar student ever. Okay, here's the rule. Use who or whoever as a subject and whom or whomever as an object. Always, always, always. So, who has the keys to the shed? Who is the subject of the verb has? So we use the subjective case, who. To whom should I address this letter? Well, whom is the object of the preposition to, so we use the objective case, whom. All right, most people can't remember subjective case, objective case, all that stuff. So here is the trick that professional grammarians and writers use. When in doubt, temporarily replace the pronoun with either he or him. If he makes sense, the case is subjective. And if him makes sense, the case is objective. He has the keys to the shed makes just as much sense as who has the keys to the shed. I should address this letter to him. To whom should I address this letter? We've still got that preposition. We've still got the object of that preposition. So it's in the objective case. Just remember, whom goes with him. Remember those M's. And he goes with who. Remember those ending vowels. All right. See if you can find the correct pronoun to use in each of these sentences. The reason we or us clowns are not smiling is because we've been fired. Well, that's a bad day to be a clown. The flu shot will be given to whoever or whomever is most at risk. For who or for whom are you calling? Who or whom is this? You can't fool we or us amateur detectives. And whom are you going to ask to the prom? Take a good look. Pause the video if you need to. All right, the reason we clowns are not smiling is because we've been fired. Well, we wanted the subject of are not smiling. If you get rid of clowns, it would be we are not smiling, so we is the pronoun we need. The flu shot will be given to whomever is most at risk. In this case, the preposition to is our controlling factor. It needs an object, so we use the objective case, whomever. For whom are you calling? We have the preposition for. It needs an object, so for whom. Who is this? Is our verb, who is our subject, so we use the subjective case. You can't fool us amateur detectives. Well, this is that we-us thing again. If you get rid of amateur detectives, you can't fool us. And it is the direct object of the verb fool. So you need the objective case, you can't fool us. Amateur detectives is just window dressing. And finally, whom are you going to ask to the prom? Now remember, in questions, sometimes the sentence order can be inverted. The direct object can come before the verb, and in this case, that's exactly what you're doing. Going to ask is our verb phrase. It requires an object, so we have the objective case, whom. All right, one last round of practice. See if you can figure out which pronoun is correct to use in each sentence. The boss will decide who or whom to hire. My mother, who or whom has a degree in early childhood education, will start teaching next fall. And finally, ask not for who or for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Take a good look. Pause the video if you need to. The boss will decide whom to hire. In this case, the verb is will decide, and whom is the direct object, so you need the objective case. My mother, who has a degree in early childhood education. Here we have a subordinate clause, and the verb has. Who is the subject of that verb, so it has to be the subjective case, or the subjective case. We'll start teaching next fall. And finally, ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Well, the parallelism for whom, for thee indicates that we're using prepositions over and over. The preposition for requires an object, which means any pronoun that it refers to has to be in the objective case. For whom the bell tolls. And remember, you can just as easily replace him. The bell tolls for him. You could also say the boss will decide to hire him. That's how you tell when you can use whom. That's all for this lesson. Thank you for watching. Educator.com.